Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of the Phillip Island Murder? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. So first I'll look at the background in this case, including the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. This case takes place in 1986 on Phillip Island, which is located in Australia, just south of Melbourne. This is a beach community of about 5,000 people. 23-year-old Beth Barnard had worked as a farmhand for the wealthy and well-liked Cameron family. 36-year-old Fergus Cameron was a prominent member of this family. He was married to a woman named Vivian. The couple had 2 sons. 2 years earlier, Beth had met Fergus when she was volunteering at the Penguin Parade. This is a popular event on the island. Just after sunset, every night of the year, penguins walk across the beach. Apparently, they are little penguins. People gather to watch this event, referring to it as a penguin parade. I bet the penguins are looking around every night thinking, I feel like I should be riding on a float. Why do these people keep watching us? After this penguin parade-fueled meeting, Fergus hired Beth to work on the farm. In May 1985, Beth and Fergus started having an affair. Vivian started to suspect Fergus of infidelity. Vivian's father had left her mother for a younger woman, so Vivian was familiar with this dynamic. She asked Fergus if he would consider going to marriage counseling. On September 22, 1986, Fergus left for work early and made his way to the house of Beth's parents. They were away, and he knew he could spend some time with Beth alone. Vivian called the farmhouse and figured out that Fergus wasn't there like he was supposed to be. She had already suspected him of having an affair. Now she was all but certain. Fergus returned home at 9:20 p.m. Vivian was ready for him. She confronted him about the affair. He confirmed her worst fears, admitting his behavior. Vivian went into a rage and attacked Fergus with a wine glass. She struck him on his head and back, cutting him so badly that he needed medical attention. The couple arranged for Fergus's sister, Marnie, and her husband to watch the kids so that Fergus could be treated at a hospital. When Marnie entered the house, she noticed that there was blood and glass all over the place. She and her husband cleaned up the glass. Fergus was treated at the hospital, and the couple returned to their house at 12:30 a.m., now on September 23. They decided that a divorce would be the best move for them. They came up with a plan of what to do in the meantime. Vivian would move to Melbourne, Australia, and stay with her parents. Fergus would stay with the children in the family home. This plan didn't solve their immediate problem, what to do that night. They decided that Fergus would stay at his sister's house. Vivian dropped him off at 1 a.m. This is the last time she would ever be seen. At this point, it is believed that Vivian returned to the family home. A woman named Robin Dixon was a friend of Vivian's. At 3 a.m., Vivian called Robin's house, and Robin's husband answered. Vivian asked the couple to come over to her house to watch her children so that she could transport her husband to the hospital. What's interesting about this request, of course, is that the trip had already occurred. Again, Fergus and Vivian had returned to their home from the hospital at 12:30 a.m. A neighbor spotted a Toyota Land Cruiser owned by Fergus at 3:30 a.m. The police would later say that Vivian was the driver. She was on her way to Beth Barnard's house. Robin arrived at Vivian's residence and found the children sleeping, but no one else was in the house. She noticed that Vivian's purse was there. At 5 a.m., the Land Cruiser was spotted again at the Phillip Island Bridge. It was stationary and unoccupied. In the morning, Robin got in touch with Fergus and wanted to know when Vivian was going to return home. Fergus started to put things together. He wondered if Vivian had done something to Beth. He asked his brother Don and his brother-in-law Ian to visit Beth and make sure that she was okay. When Don and Ian arrived at Beth's house, they found that Beth had been murdered. They drove to a police station to report the murder. Some people wondered why they didn't simply call the police. Here's what the police found after arriving at the scene. Beth's body was covered with a blanket. There were numerous stab and slash wounds. Her throat had been cut. She had defensive wounds on her hands and forearms. Her nightgown was lifted up to her neck, and the letter A had been carved into her chest. The letter had been formed with a total of 19 slashes. This, of course, is thought to be a reference to the 1850 Nathaniel Hawthorne novel titled The Scarlet Letter, A Romance. It's a story about a woman who has an affair and is sentenced to wear the scarlet letter A on her chest. Moving to the other items found at the scene, a knife was discovered next to Beth Barnard's body. Paper towels stained with blood were found near the bathroom sink. A few cigarette butts were found. The police would later determine that Beth was attacked in bed and may have been asleep. The police started searching for Vivian, as she seemed to be a pretty good suspect. They discovered her Land Cruiser at the Phillip Island Bridge at about 4 p.m. Vivian was not there. Inside the vehicle, they found a carving knife, a washcloth, 2 packs of cigarettes, which matched the brand found at Beth's house, a box of matches, and Vivian's purse. Robin had spotted her purse at Vivian's house, so this part didn't quite make sense. I'll talk more about this in the analysis. The police continued to search for Vivian, but she was never found. She had disappeared. The police developed a theory that Vivian was the killer. After she murdered Beth, she drove the Land Cruiser to the bridge, exited her vehicle, and traveled off of the bridge in an effort to end her life. The case was considered closed, but interestingly, in September of 2020, cold case homicide detectives confirmed they were still investigating. Now moving to my analysis. There were a number of items that suggest the official theory was problematic. First item, how did Vivian's purse get in the Land Cruiser if she left it at her house? Second item, it is believed that Vivian traveled off the bridge sometime before 5 a.m. when the Land Cruiser was spotted there. However, at 10 a.m., 5 hours later, a woman named Grande Frost claimed that she received a phone call from Vivian. Glenda's account was corroborated by a friend who was visiting with her that morning. Glenda said that Vivian talked about sewing patterns and buying gifts for a coworker at a community house where both Glenda and Vivian worked. Vivian provided information to Glenda that only Vivian would have known. Glenda was absolutely positive that she didn't get mixed up about what day it was or what time it was. It was definitely around 10 a.m. on September 23. Moving to the third item, the police did not find pieces of broken glass in the Cameron residence. Now again, it was reported that Fergus's sister Marnie and her husband had cleaned that up, but the pieces still should have been found in the trash. Fourth item, a few years later, in the 1990s, testing revealed that Vivian's DNA was on 3 items which were found at the crime scene: the knife, the towel, and the cigarette butts. This is consistent with the idea that she was the killer. However, none of her DNA was found on or around Beth's body. It was only on those 3 items. Only Vivian's blood was found on the towel in the bathroom. How did she murder Beth with a knife and not get any of Beth's blood on the towel? Beth Barnard's blood was not found in the Land Cruiser either, which seems unusual considering Vivian supposedly had entered the vehicle not long after killing Beth. Why would Vivian have worried about cleaning the blood off of her so thoroughly if she intended on bringing an end to her own life? Fifth item, Vivian's blood was found at the Cameron family house. Hospital records indicate that she was not treated for any injuries when she was there. Only Fergus was treated. How did Vivian's blood get there? Sixth item, Beth was not known to smoke, yet it seems clear the killer did, and cigarettes were found in the Land Cruiser. Seventh item, according to the story that Fergus told, Vivian was willing to give him custody of their 2 sons. Friends of hers said that would never happen. Eighth item, the police searched extensively for Vivian's body in the water below the bridge, but never found her. There were no reports in the history of the Phillip Island Bridge of somebody jumping off of it. Why did Vivian select that bridge? What do I think happened in this case? Was Vivian really guilty? Was she working alone? I think that Vivian Cameron murdered Beth Barnard. She had the motive, the opportunity. She placed that mysterious call at 3 a.m. saying that she was going to complete a task which had already been completed. Her DNA was found on items at the murder scene, including the knife. She was the only one who had the reason to carve the letter on Beth's chest. Looking at her motive in more detail, it was beyond just the affair. Vivian had lived through this before with her mother and father, and I think Beth was particularly attached to Fergus, which of course would have worried Vivian even more. Beth had told her friends that Fergus was her first true love and her first sexual experience. I think that Vivian realized that neither Fergus nor Beth was going to end the affair. There are other possibilities as to what happened, but all of them would involve a fairly large conspiracy. Like if Fergus was involved, people would have had to lie for him. If Vivian really was guilty, how can those 8 conflicting items be reconciled? I'll go through each one quickly and offer my thoughts. The purse in the Land Cruiser can be explained by a simple mistake. Maybe Robin thought she saw it at the Cameron residence, but she did not. Also, maybe Vivian snuck back to her own house and retrieved it. The phone call with Glenda could be explained by Glenda getting the day wrong. She insisted that she didn't, but maybe she did. The issue with the missing pieces of wine glass could be explained by poor police work or Fergus lying. Maybe there never was a wine glass. Maybe Vivian attacked him with some other object, but when he went to the hospital, he made up a story that would not draw as much attention as a deadly weapon or a dangerous instrument. Vivian's DNA not being on or near Beth's body could be explained by an unlikely occurrence. Vivian just simply didn't leave any DNA. This could also explain the lack of Beth's blood on the towel and the blood not being found in the Land Cruiser. Vivian's blood in the Cameron residence could be explained because of the fight that she had with her husband. Even if she didn't get treated for any injury, she may still have been injured. The presence of the cigarettes could be explained by Vivian simply choosing to smoke after murdering Beth. She probably figured she wasn't going to be around long enough to have to worry about lung cancer. The custody issue with Vivian's sons could be explained by Fergus lying, or again, Vivian realizing that she would not be alive. Vivian's body not being found in the water could just be another unlikely occurrence. Sometimes when people travel off of bridges, their bodies are never recovered. I think that some of these inconsistencies could also be explained by Vivian's attitude toward the murder. I think she intended to perpetrate the crime and then get away with it, but at some point realized that her escape was unlikely. So she was initially careful about leaving behind evidence, but then she didn't care, which created an inconsistent pattern of evidence. Moving to my final thoughts, inconsistencies like the ones we see in this case do not necessarily mean anything. Murders that are committed with a knife are pretty much always messy. Witnesses don't always remember things correctly. The investigation doesn't always find what's actually there. Investigators can make mistakes. When a number of inconsistencies come together at the same time, it is certainly suspicious. This case is worth a second look. But in the end, I think that the simplest explanation in this case is probably the correct one. I find it ironic that Vivian carved an A on Beth's chest in an effort to make the motive for the murder clear. Yet due to apparent inconsistencies in the evidence, Vivian does not always get the credit for killing her romantic rival. Vivian wanted the message to be, this is what happens to people who have affairs. Instead, the message became, who was responsible for this murder? Vivian achieved her goal of homicide, but was unable to successfully communicate her message. This may be the first time that carving an A on a murder victim was actually too subtle for the acquisition of a definitive conclusion about the events surrounding a homicide. Those are my thoughts on the case of the Phillip Island murder. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis on this topic to be as intriguing as little penguins. Thanks for watching.